Hi, welcome to Scientist Sage Sangha. From Wise Heart Wellness, I'm Nancy Anderson Dolan, and I'm so glad you could join us tonight. We are talking about paradigms tonight. And the idea of paradigms is a little sketchy. If you've had to go through science or psychology kind of training, you've probably been drilled in what a paradigm is. But other than that, it's just a sort of a group of ideas that orient the way you approach things. And it can be as small as thinking that you have to wear matching socks because that's the rule. And it can be as big as things like colonization, thinking a particular group of people have the right to sort of go, and if they can reach it, they can take it. And so there's a huge range, but really it's like a stream that you stand in, and it flows through you in that way, and that's how you experience the world. And you don't even necessarily know you're in it until you take a better look at it. Or it can be like having a pair of glasses on. And if they're dark glasses, then you see darkness everywhere. And often people that have come from backgrounds that are unstable or difficult often are looking for darkness, and not because they're, negatively oriented people or anything like that, but their bodies have a paradigm that's incorporated into it that says you have to look for trouble so then you don't get into trouble. And those kinds of paradigms like bone deep. So this idea of paradigm is not just like a scientific theory. Like when I did experiments in psychology, there was a paradigm we worked with. We have this expectation that people will be this way or that way, and based on that we develop this theory and this thesis, and then we experiment on it. So it's really small and in a box, but our paradigms can be really big and different. And I really have made good use of them in my lifetime and been held down in ways that I don't even understand yet by different paradigms that I hold. And it really is because it can be so intrinsic in you, you don't even notice you have it. It's a mental process that you just think is reality. You don't question it. You don't notice it. You just go along and assume it. And it kind of makes our lives comfortable. It makes it work, because if we had to stop and think everything through every time we did anything, it can be overwhelming. Sort of like people that are looking to change their diet in the current world, because there's 30,000 pieces of food and health information that come out every day. And to try and get all of those to work out the paradigm, and half of them are conflicting, it's impossible. And so we have to narrow down some of these paradigms to simpler things that we can live with and work with at certain times. So I really encourage people to, while we're doing this one tonight, to just maybe keep a pen and paper there, or, open your mind to notice what kinds of paradigms you have in different places in your life, and how do they work for you or against you. And it may be ones that we actually speak about, or it may be ones that just pop up when you're listening to something. And the way that I really notice I have a paradigm in place is when I go, no, that can't be right. As soon as I hear that in my head, I'm like, wait a minute, honey, let's just sit down and feel through this a little bit. And then either I may re-choose my paradigm, but I do it consciously, or I may throw it out and go, wow, that's crazy. I noticed that as a young kid growing up, because we were really isolated in a very white neighborhood and that sort of thing, that when I met people that were non-white or from other further away places than very far from me, I had a reluctance, sort of a reticence to connect with them. And it was just because of the differences. I understood later as I grew up that was like the roots of racism, but I didn't understand it as a child. I noticed it because I often got to know them and they were friends, and then I lost the paradigm that showed me they were different. But it's really difficult to go through and do that. So I invite you tonight, while we talk, is just sort of sit with it, sift with it, not sit with it too, but sift through things and let them flow through your paradigms and see what you might be holding in mind, what beliefs or ideas, what old experiences gave you certain things. So we want to know what things we learned and what things we've chosen and what they're working on, basically. And so we're never ever going to be truly aware of all our unconscious paradigms, but it's a useful thing to start to explore and start to decide about some paradigms we want to take in there and change. There's a saying that is from Socrates: if you want to change a little thing, you change your attitude. And if you want to change your life, you change your paradigm. And that's really what I'm going to invite you into tonight. But I looked through a lot of information. There's lots of scientific information about paradigms and research and whatnot, but I didn't find them nearly as powerful as an article that I included in the email this time. And it was about different paradigm shifts. And they were talking about just questioning the lens through which you see the world. And lots of times people don't do this if they're all comfortable and happy and everything is going well. It would be useful to do that, but we don't want to create discomfort. But so you might look at it, things that, there's something that I've been wanting to do, but I don't do it. Or there's something here that makes me uncomfortable every time I run into it. Or there's something here that is really pushing my buttons all the time, and I don't really know why. And those are good fertile places to look for what kind of paradigms you have going on. And they're so unnoticeable or imperceptible because they grew up from the environments that we grew up in. Literally, our paradigms grow like trees just right beside us all the time. And so we don't notice so much. And then as we incorporate them, they become just how life is. Like the big change was like when people found out that the earth was not flat. That changed a whole bunch of things. And they were like, oh, wait a minute. And that caused a whole group or era of people, generation of people, to look at life a little bit differently. And it took a long time for the reality that the earth was not flat to be accepted by everybody, because that had been the ongoing paradigm from the beginning of time or beginning of thought. So those ideas, our beliefs just become our paradigms. So whatever we believe, whatever we've been exposed to, whatever we've been taught to do, those become our paradigms. And in traditional like education and even self-help, counseling for sure, we don't necessarily get invited into changing paradigms. We want people to try hard and perform well and, make changes that are positive, think positively, and all of those things. And all of those things can be useful, but they can also keep people in paradigms that are not working for them. So this isn't simple to, it's like picking a needle out of a haystack or pulling a single thread out of a garment or a weaving and noticing how it affects the whole thing. When we really want to look at it, you can look at the scientific ones, but the personal ones are really what we're going to look at tonight, because the scientific ones, like the earth is flat, will have a big impact on our lives for sure. But the personal ones that we carry around have a more daily impact on us. Okay. Not that the earth being round doesn't have a daily impact on us, but it's not as changeable. We can't go and ride the Hubble telescope out into space and really get the big things. We can look at the pictures they send back, but when we change our personal paradigms, and one of the biggest ones that they talk about in the article that I included is about accepting ignorance. And when I first read that, I thought, what do you mean? Our society is very much about, we educate ignorant people. Education is the big equalizer and everything. But when we accept that we don't know things, literally, when I know that I don't know, I approach the world very differently. And I have been a champion of I know. And if I didn't know, I could make a story up good enough to make you think I knew. And I so need to know everything. And I did as a function of who I was and how my brain works, I know a lot of things because I pick them up just compulsively. I love ideas and those kinds of things. But when I know that I don't know, it really changes things. So that paradigm that I don't know was a radical change for me. It was a huge part of my personal recovery in the world and a huge part of me getting closer to people because I thought I knew. I thought I knew what was best for them. I thought I knew what they were all about after the first time I met them. I thought I knew what they should think, all of those kinds of things. And as that changed and realizing that I didn't know, and sometimes I didn't even know what I didn't know, I really shifted in my relationships to people. So I highly recommend it. It's a great adventure. And that it really it opens up your mind in ways you may be surprised by if you really sort of carry that paradigm around. And just the idea of honoring ignorance. So you're not wrong if you make a mistake. And if someone makes a mistake, then it's this opportunity for connection as opposed for correction. And it's a whole new level of thinking and connecting with that. The another one that he talks about is what he calls a giving economy. I like it. He talks further down that this idea is based on the law of reciprocity. And what I found that to be true, that when I do something kind for someone, often I get that kindness back tenfold. And there's an actual name for it in scientific literature called the Samaritan effect. And so when a good Samaritan stops and helps somebody, it's exponential because when we help somebody, our health in our body and our brains improves. And just by helping someone, not even we don't have to have the person be thankful for it. We don't have to help hundreds of people. Just us helping one person makes our health markers in our bodies improve. And so this idea of employing this Samaritan effect and really opening to that idea that it's not how much can I get. We think we need to get more and do more and make more to be happy, but we don't actually. Only about 10% of what we have makes us happy. 10% only. And so that's not necessarily where we want to put our energy, except that in our society, it's sort of pressed there. And often we have gone into overacting, taking too many things on. If I just do this thing, then I will be okay. If I just get this, then it'll be all right. And not the idea of, do I need this? And so this idea of the gift economy, giving more forward, it's really brought forward in 12-step programs and other spiritual groups that really we're here to give. We're here to give love. We're here to give those things. And when we keep this paradigm of reciprocity in there, not I don't give so I can get, but I give because that's what works well in my body, in my life, in my brain. It makes me happy. That's just a good thing in life. And so that idea, it moves us away from what we can get. And we don't get so worried about it. We trust the universe that this law of reciprocity will work. And I will have what I need. It may not be what is advertised on TV or what the neighbors have now, or what I thought growing up maybe should be mine to make me look good from the outside. But reciprocity is really working from the inside out, because when people tune in, you feel good and you're given. And there's some scientific stuff behind this, and that I love the science part of it too. We have mirror neurons, and our mirror neurons talk to each other more than our mouth and our words do sometimes. And if our mirror neurons see somebody getting happy from serving someone else, from giving instead of getting, our mirror neurons want to do the same thing. And so if we create that circle, can you imagine what we create in the world? If our mirror neurons see somebody else feeling like they're going to get happy if they get something, our mirror neurons want to do that too. And so literally we can spread this in a really interesting way. And that's why it works. The Samaritan effect is real. Just like, well, they might call the reverse of that the Scrooge effect. The Scrooge effect can be real too, if we're looking at that and focusing on that and being exposed to that. I'm feeling that. So this idea of in this part of our lives, what we get, what we give, have a paradigm of giving can be very powerful. And the idea about less but better. Now, this one is a little trickier. They talk, like about the heavy media advertising, and most of us do not look like the media we watch. So whether it's the commercial on TV with the seniors skipping down the path looking for pills that help their sex lives, we may not be those people, but it makes us feel less than. And it doesn't show, the little old man helping his wife with Alzheimer's just go around the house and be familiarized with her house again, because that wouldn't get a lot of people to sign up for anything. And so this idea about less but better, and the idea that I don't need that was a new one to me in this particular article about I just don't need that. I just don't need that. In my household, I have a paradigm that I probably have something that will work. And most of the time we do. We look around for it and go, wait a minute, we already have one of those. Or wait, this will be great. I was just so enamored. My son bought a dining room table for his new home, and he wanted a wood table and he wanted it to last a long time. And I was saying, oh yeah, that would be like the heirloom table we have in our dining room. And it's not a fancy table. It's just one that my mom had in her kitchen for a long time. And she, in fact, had never got it finished. She bought it at a garage sale or something. And it was a gorgeous wooden table. And she sanded it all down and that, but she never finished it. So when I inherited it, we finished it and we've used it for most of my children's lives. And so he was so excited about this idea of an heirloom table, and that he didn't need to worry if it got scratched or anything. He would take good care of it and he would have it for a long time. And so, and he bought it's a very inexpensive table. And it was just this idea of, I don't need the big, fancy, newest, most expensive sort of thing. This, that has some deep meaning and deep feeling, can be just right. So the idea, I don't need those big, fancy, flashy things, which is quite an achievement for a young person, I think, in our world today. So all that sort of thing, this, I don't need it. Remember, only 10% is what we have. And how we relate to what we have has a lot more impact on us than what we have. So the idea of I don't need it, and the popular saying that's been brought out, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the young Asian woman's name, who is an expert declutterer, but what she says is, if you don't love it, get rid of it. And this was echoed in this article. So reducing that consumption, now it saves our planet. So this paradigm shift can save the planet. In the province where I live, there is a discussion going on. We're having an election, and for the leaders, one of them is more evolving forward into different kinds of clean energy, and the other team is sort of saying, no, we got to support the things we've done forever. We're not done with them yet. We shouldn't drop them like that. And those kinds of things, the paradigms are very, very different. And so this election will very likely be won on two different paradigms. However many people accept the paradigms will be what happens. And so they're very powerful, these ideas of what we need and how we go about having it, those kinds of things. And the last one, that he talks about is about who am I to do it? And I really like this one too, because this idea of who am I not to do it? I find a lot of people that I speak to, as we develop some paths to peace in their lives and we start going down them, they'll get an idea about something they think they'd like to do. But they get that other idea, that other paradigm, like, who are you? And in our society that has a lot of like those with people with money, those people with fame, those people with big obvious fancy achievements, often they're held up as the people that are doing things. And so the little old ladies, and I include myself in that group, that go around and pick up garbage while they walk their dogs every single day, are not so much held up as paradigms in the society. But I have a paradigm that, this is my home, the planet, and it's mine to keep tidy. And so I don't have to go around and pick up every piece of garbage everywhere that anyone's ever left, because that would not be a workable paradigm. And so we think about these workable paradigms. What's a good workable paradigm for me? Well, it's a good workable paradigm for me to go and pick up garbage as I walk my dog. I'm out, I see it, it's in public spaces, I want to take care of the space, and it works great for me. So this idea that who am I to do it or not to do it? And it could be things like picking up garbage. Who am I not to do that? And lots of times, well, I didn't put it there, so I don't have to do anything about it. That's not necessarily true. I'm sure at some point in my teenage years, I put a lot of trash out there and wasn't very responsible. So, but the idea like that, and it can be also things like, who am I not to talk about the ideas that I have coming into my head that I think might be helpful in society? Who am I not to get into a relationship, leave a relationship, do a particular job, start doing something when I'm older, start doing something when I'm younger, before I have the societal stamp of approval to be someone doing those things? So it's a really wide opening that this idea creates as a paradigm. Really, really wide opening. One of the last things I want to say is about the paradigm that I encourage people always to feel the guidance within and act on it in whatever way they can. And so if people literally were, if that was the paradigm, if that was our society, we got to train our children. We start putting them in kindergarten, start teaching them to listen to themselves, and all the way through, and to support other people in those guidance that they feel right to do, teach people to listen in that way. Can you imagine what kind of society we'd have? It would be amazing. And so I encourage all of you that are listening to this now and later to think about that particular paradigm. I have guidance within me that will show me what to do. And that guidance will come with the strength to do it. But it does not have to be in the predominant paradigm, like you got to crush it and push through, and it's got to be an audacious goal. Not so much. What if we had a paradigm about, I can take one step today, and then I can ask for the next piece of guidance? So I'm big on the shift the guidance idea paradigm, and I want to include that one. And just a note that Confucius said, the journey with 1,000 miles begins with one step. And so paradigm change does not happen overnight. For myself, going from a overeater to a normaler eater, from an alcoholic to being a non-drinker, from being a smoker to a non-smoker, those things did not happen overnight. I grew into them, to those ideas, as I just held on to them, like, this is a possibility. And we can do that with any paradigm shift. It doesn't matter whether it's around racism or how I'm going to change where I store my dishes. And I challenge you, dish storing can be competitive issue in a couple. So, you might want to open up to that paradigm change too. So The last thing I want to say is we are going to have a healing circle, June 11th, 2023. And I'm going to announce it live so that people know that we are doing healing circles at different times and on different topics. And the one we're doing this June 11th, 2023 is going to be about pain and the power in pain. And actually, the next Sangha next week will be about pain. I actually ran a retreat on pain, and a lot of people showed up to it. I was surprised that many people were bold enough to jump in. But many of these things that we find we don't like in our lives, and paradigm change is no exception. Paradigm change can create pain for us, and we don't like pain. And so we can stall a paradigm change that we may really wish to make because we don't know how to manage the pain of it. And so that's one of the reasons that when we meditated, that was what came up that we should talk about in this shift from spring to summer. So you can always email at scientistsage@gmail.com with comments, contributions, or questions that you might have, and to find out about other things that we're doing, like the healing circles. Thank you so much for joining us tonight with this particular paradigm shift idea. And I hope that you've got a little list that you've seen that, maybe I'll think about this paradigm shift. Please don't try and do a whole bunch at once. And if you have a really big one, like maybe I'm going to shift my sexual identity, take small steps, small steps, and see where you go with it. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I am with you. You are with me. Blessed be. Good night.